Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, feeling like you're being watched? I used to think that was just a cliche from horror movies, until last night. It started with a sound, a heavy, metallic thud, the unmistakable sound of a door shutting somewhere in my house. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just a dream. You know that weird sensation when someone calls your name in a dream, and it echoes into reality as you open your eyes? I prayed that's all it was. But then, I looked at my cat. He was standing at the edge of my bed. His back was arched, and his fur was completely on end. He was staring at my bedroom door with a look of pure malice. My cat never acts like this. Never. That was the exact moment I realized I wasn't dreaming. I looked over at my bedroom door. The hallway light outside was on, casting a thin beam of light through the crack. And then I saw it. The door was moving. Not a swing from the AC unit. It was swaying. Slowly, deliberately, almost like it was breathing. It looked as if someone was standing right on the other side, gently pressing against the wood, trying to hear if the noise had woken me up. And right there, blocking the light through the crack, was a shadow. It wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a demon. It was the unmistakable silhouette of a human being. A real person, standing just inches away from my face, separated only by a thin piece of wood. Terror paralyzed me. I lay there, completely and entirely defenseless, watching this door sway back and forth for 5 agonizing minutes. I wanted to scream. I wanted to yell to scare them away, but the absolute terror of what might happen if they yelled back kept my mouth locked shut. I don't own a gun. In that moment, I legitimately believed I was going to have to fight for my life. 10 minutes passed. 10 minutes of staring at a moving shadow, waiting for the doorknob to turn. Eventually, the shadow vanished from the crack. The door stopped moving. Adrenaline is a strange thing. It overrides your fear and replaces it with pure survival instinct. I forced myself out of bed. I didn't have a weapon, but I couldn't just sit there waiting to be trapped. I opened the door. The hallway was empty. I spent the next 20 minutes clearing my house. I checked behind every curtain. I opened every closet. I checked under the sinks, in the pantry, and in every dark corner of the basement. There's absolutely no one there. All the windows were locked. The front and back doors were bolted tight. To this day, I don't know what my cat saw. I don't know whose shadow blocked that light, or why the door was moving. My logical brain wants to tell me it was just a draft and a trick of the light, but my evolutionary traits kicked in for a reason last night. Your body knows when you are in danger, and every instinct I have tells me someone was in my house, and they got out before I could find them. Back in the 1970s, my grandfather dropped my grandmother, my mom, and her 2 sisters off at a shopping center on his way to work because he had to stay late. He wasn't going to be able to pick them up. Back then, things were different. So, my grandmother decided they would hitchhike home. My mom was only 10 years old at the time. Her middle sister was 8, and the youngest sister was just a 1-year-old baby. They stood by the side of the highway, waiting for a ride. Eventually, a pickup truck pulled over. The driver was a man traveling alone. He told them all to pile into the back row of the cab, with my mom holding the baby. At first, everything seemed fine, but as they neared their exit, my grandmother noticed something was wrong. My grandmother began giving the driver directions to their house, but the man completely ignored her. He drove right past their exit. When my grandmother questioned him, his voice was cold. He claimed he just had to make a quick stop first. For the rest of the drive, the man fell dead silent. My mom remembers looking over at my grandmother. She was incredibly quiet and visibly shaking with nerves. They drove deep into the countryside, further and further away from safety. Eventually, the truck pulled up to an isolated, run-down farm. They were in the middle of nowhere. The driver threw the truck into park, looked back at them, and told them to wait in the car. Then he walked inside the house. Left alone in the truck, pure terror set in. They knew they were trapped. They couldn't run out here on foot, not with a baby. A few minutes later, the front door of the house opened. The driver walked out, but he wasn't alone. Another man was with him. They walked up to the truck and the second man peered through the window into the back seat. His eyes landed directly on my mom's youngest sister, the baby. Suddenly, the second man completely flipped out. He started screaming at the driver at the top of his lungs. "Why did you bring a baby back here? We can't do anything with her." He was furious, shouting that the driver had ruined everything. He shoved the driver toward the truck and yelled, "Get them away from this farm right now." The driver, looking terrified of his partner, got back into the truck. He looked back at my family, mumbled a quick apology, and started the engine. The drive back to the highway was spent in absolute, suffocating silence. My grandmother had him drop them off directly at their house. They lived in that home for several more years, and luckily they never saw either of those men again. To this day, my mom shudders thinking about that afternoon. They were seconds away from a terrible fate, an absolute nightmare scenario, and the only reason they survived was because of a baby.